Hello friends, welcome to Tech Plus Lab, and today we're going to take a look at the macro lens on Redmi Note 8 Pro. Is this an underrated one or is it really useless? Let us check it out. First of all, let's take a look at the placement of the lens on back of this smartphone. The most important thing here is that flash is really situated at a perfect place for both main camera and the macro lens, unlike other smartphones which have macro lens down below the other lenses, which makes the flash far away from the actual macro lens. It's very useful for the macro lens to take some good pictures because this can go as close as 2 centimeters, and you'll probably casting a shadow from your phone itself when you're moving that close to the subjects. So thanks to Redmi for choosing this decision very wisely. And the other thing to really keep in mind is Redmi never really elevated this lens, because as you can see it's actually flush with the surface and doesn't have any flashy indications or anything for this. That's because the most important lens of all in this setup is the main lens, which we'll do a complete detailed review, but in short, that's an excellent lens for sure. It's extraordinary at this price tag to get such a great camera on a smartphone. Redmi really did a great job with that. And the best part of this is that both the macro lens and the flash are actually covered in Gorilla Glass 5, which is a good news because it can be scratch free for the most part. Here are some sample shots to decide on whether the lens is good or not by yourself, and I think everything is really good. In reality, as you can see in all these pictures, there is absolutely no reason to say that the macro lens has something really bad in it, in the sensor itself. As I told you, the colors were accurate. There is nothing blowing out or actually staying in shadows, staying too dark. As long as you turn on the flash or have ample amount of light from some other external source, even the artificial light will work. This lens is simply good. One more thing is that the Redmi Note 8 Pro macro lens even has support for the professional mode in the stock camera app. This is an excellent option for taking photos of the steady objects in low lighting conditions without really bumping up ISO a lot. But remember that we have only support for up to 1.4 seconds of the shutter speed, which is good enough for the macro lens actually. So there's no complaint here, but the ISO is bumped up to 3200, which is pretty useless for a 2MP camera, but it is still there just in case. And it's really a good addition that we have a pro support. It's really important for any camera on a smartphone, and thanks to Xiaomi for actually putting that in. Coming to the video recording is okay with this, and that's because the maximum resolution is actually 720p, even though a 2MP sensor can take up to 1080p videos. That depends on the internals of the sensor, like what is the maximum amount of internal cache it has for the recording to process and all that stuff, which we are not going to go into detail. But you should understand that the maximum capability is only 720p, and again you're actually viewing that video on your full HD plus screen, which means the video will appear slightly pixelated and not so sharp. But that's not the actual reason. That's not the actual issue with the sensor, but it's because of the low resolution of the video. It's actually pretty good in bright lighting conditions, which is really hard to find because it's a macro lens and you'll be close to the subjects, and again, as I told you, will be casting the shadow of your own smartphone in most parts because you will be going as close as 2 centimeters to the subjects. So this is completely understandable. And if you provide some artificial light or possibility of some reflected light from sunlight or something like that, the video looks great, just great. But in most cases, that's not the issue. Though the sensor is 2MP, which means you can record up to 1080p, maybe something in the sensor limited it from actually going that high, so you can only record up to 720p. And in most cases, the flashlight does have the capability to provide enough light for most of the shots and the videos. But remember that using the flashlight at times might actually overexpose the pictures or the videos, because obviously we're too close to the subject and there is no light dimming available on the flash. Obviously, I don't expect that to be available on any smartphone yet. There are absolutely zero cons that I can find about this lens, except if people say that the resolution is low as it is low, but Xiaomi never claimed it to be anything higher than 2 megapixels. So Xiaomi is always telling that this is a 2 megapixel lens, and people bought it looking at the spec sheet, but still they are expecting something more than 2 megapixel. I don't know what to call them. So the people who are actually saying that some stupid questions like, okay, this doesn't have a good HDR. Wait, what are you trying to take pictures of with your macro lens, and you're accounting for HDR ability of this lens? Seriously, I'm gonna ignore all such cases. Okay, another thing is that you cannot take the pictures of a moving subject with this macro lens, and the main reason is that when you're actually moving closer and the subject also moves even a little bit, it might actually go out of focus and your pictures will not be sharp at all. So reason for all the bad reputation is actually people misusing the macro lens, or because they don't know what they actually bought. Because as I told you, the resolution is 2 megapixel and the maximum resolution is full HD for a 2 megapixel. The photos that they're going to view on the typical smartphone screen, which is the Redmi Note 8 Pro screen in most cases, is actually a full HD plus screen, which means it's higher than full HD. And also, as you can see in the details of the pictures taken with a default aspect ratio, the maximum resolution is only 1600 by 1200, because photos aspect ratio will be that, and nobody is gonna shoot in aspect ratios of the screen like 21 by 9 or something like that. So the maximum resolution you can get is with the typical resolution of 4:3, which is 1200 by 1600, which is way less than even full HD. And considering the fact that we have a full HD plus screen, which is not even full HD but higher than full HD, and to view the picture on this screen you need to digitally zoom the image a lot, which loses the quality of it obviously. So it's not a fault of the sensor but fault of a user there. And the same happens when you try to use this as a wallpaper. For using this as a wallpaper, even you need to digitally crop the image. Also, this is also applicable for the people who take pictures from a long distance, because this supports a longer focal length, because this can take pictures up to 2 centimeters distance. People either utilize that a lot or don't utilize that at all, which means that they're going to take a picture of a flower, for example, and then they're going to crop into the center of the flower, totally forgetting that this is a 2 megapixel camera. So they're again doing the same mistake by digitally zooming in the picture and thinking that the sensor isn't good. But in reality, actually the camera module sensors cannot be zoomed in over 60% without being able to see a lot of noise, because it's a camera sensor on a typical mobile phone, not with all the hardware of a SLR and very small sensor size. Only a full frame sensor can be zoomed in a lot, but that's a different topic totally. Maybe we'll talk about that later on. But simply the mobile sensors cannot be zoomed in even all the way, but considering this sensor, it can be zoomed in all the way with way less noise. It's an excellent sensor. That there itself, it says that the sensor itself is really good. I don't know what better sensor can a company provide for a 2 megapixels. This is a really good sensor, but lacking the ability to actually record in 1080p is really a sad thing, because it supports a 1080p resolution mostly. I don't know, that depends on the Xiaomi's decision in the future updates. If it does really support, Xiaomi will probably provide the update, but as I told you, I can say about it because we don't have any information on the sensor for now. Thank you for watching. Bye, and subscribe for the channel if you want to see more detailed reviews on the other lenses, that is wide angle and the main camera lens. Main has a lot to talk about it, so maybe subscribe if you want to see the future updates. Thank you for watching once again. Bye.